Today, what I want to talk about is the 5 financial tips that you guys should know before turning 25. So as we all know that finance is actually something really important, but the school doesn't really teach it. So you don't really get to learn about a lot of it, especially if we are in the physiotherapy program. We don't really get to be in touch with all the finance field. So I hope that with this talk, you guys are able to learn something and take away something. So it's not about teaching you guys how to get rich, because that's not really the point of this talk. It's just to set you guys up with some tips that you guys can learn and then hopefully apply in the future or even now as well. So before I start, how old are you? I kind of know the gauge of everyone's age, but maybe someone could just put it in the chat box telling me what is your age, or if you don't want to disclose your age, you could always just put a range as well. Yeah. So as you can see, everyone is about like 18. Okay, being young is a good thing, okay? So that's why this talk is very helpful, hopefully, for you guys, because it's the tips that you should know before you turn 25. So you would ask me, why 25? Okay, because 25 is actually a really interesting age. It is actually in between after you graduate and maybe you're working doing your first job already. So if you imagine, before 25, we actually have like a straight path. So we go from high school and then to college, university, and then we go for a job. But then after that, you are actually joining into the real world and you don't really have like a set path anymore. So some people might feel a bit lost during that age, because you realize that there's no one set way of doing things. It's the beauty of being a young adult, but it also can be quite confusing at times. Okay, so that's why this talk is going to be before you're turning 25, how all these tips can help you. Okay, so let's go into what is personal finance and why is it important, right? So personal finance is actually a really, really big umbrella of containing many different things. So you have cash flow, you have maybe insurance, real estate, education, loan, debt. So it's a really big, huge umbrella. But what I kind of want to focus on is just the most basic things. Like, what everyone should know is that cash flow is equals to income minus expense. And you would tell me like, oh, so then like this is very straightforward, it's actually common sense, like everyone know that. But then based on the study as well, like 75% of Malaysians don't even have 1,000 saved. So that 1,000 is actually the bare minimum of what you need for an emergency fund. And imagine like 75% of people don't even have that amount of money saved when you're 25. So it is something that actually school should think about, university should think about into implementing this kind of program, so that everyone could be financially literate before they go into the real world. Okay, so also, why is personal finance so important? Because it is about planning your future. So if you see here, the left side is about a lock, and then the right side is, kind of represent happiness and freedom. So which life do you want to have when you go into your 25 and after age? Like, everyone would prefer to be free, right? So this is why personal finance is so important, because it actually defines how you use your money now to be able to plan for the future that you want. So if you're not really financial literate, you might be locked up with so much commitment that in the end you're actually stuck in it and you can't really see what is beyond it. So we need to have like that good mindset, that forward-looking mindset, in order to be able to use what you have now to plan your future in the 10 years time. Okay, so these tips that I put in here are all very relevant to what we are experiencing, and I hope it really could help you guys in terms of your financial future. So the first tip is to always try to pay off your student loan as soon as possible. So I know that a lot of us have PTPTN loan, right? And you might think that you want to delay paying it off. But then, do you know that if you pay it off earlier, it's actually much cheaper in terms of the interest payment, okay? So look at the graph below, not really the graph, the table below. If you use 7 years to repay your education fee, it only takes you 4,900 interest that you have to pay. But if you take 15 years, it actually double up the interest that you have to pay to the government. So in that sense, you would know that the earlier you pay off your debt is better. And that should always be in your mind when you're trying to plan for debt payments, okay? And also paying off your student loans help you in building a good credit score, okay? So you might ask me, what is credit score? So when you're trying to buy a house or a car and you're trying to get a loan, the government or the financial institute actually go and check your credit score to see whether you are a person who pay very punctually, whether you have money to be able to pay off the loan. So this credit score is based on a lot of segments, and one of it is that whether you pay off your loans and your debt and your credit card in time. So by paying your student loan early and on time, it actually helps you to build a good credit score as well to help you in the future. And then one very good tip as well that many people might not know is that if you obtain a first class honor when you graduate, you actually could get your PTPTN loan exempted. So you don't have to pay for your PTPTN loan. But I think now the rules had changed a bit. I think you have to be in a certain category income in order to be exempted. So in the past, regardless which income group you're from, you're able to just waive off your whole PTPTN loan if you get a good result in school. So do keep that in mind as well, because imagine not having to pay off like the education fee that you are currently having to pay off in the future. Like that is a really great plus, okay? And then the financial tip number 2 is start saving early. So you guys might have heard a lot of people would say that, save early, save money, sedikit-sedikit, lama-lama jadi bukit, right? So this is actually the gist of why, but you should ask yourself why you should start saving early. Because what you have that other people don't have is that you have time. You guys are young. So if you start saving at the age of, like, for example, Zachary at this age of 18, you actually have a great head start than someone who starts to only save when they are maybe 22. Because so like Zach is 21. Oh, but I want to be 18. Everyone wants to be 18. Okay, so why is it so important? It's because of the importance of the power of compounded interest. So maybe you guys have heard, or maybe you guys have not heard, but compounded interest is just basically the interest you earn on the interest. Okay, it might sound like very confusing, but let's look at the graph, okay? So if you see here, if you only save $50 every month and you start at the age of 20, by the age of 64, you have 184,000 because your interest actually earns you more interest, okay? And then if you only start to save when you're at the age of 30, you only get 91,000 at the age of 64. So you can see that it's so drastic. And you don't see it now because you feel like, oh, you're so young, you don't really have a lot of money. But that's okay, you only have to save 50 or not even 50, just $10 a month. But you have to put it in a, interest saving accounts in order to let it grow, right? So you can see that the money actually double up when you start saving early. And that's very, very important for us to know at this young age, okay? So when I say start saving early and how to get that compounded interest, we need to choose a bank account that actually offers you good interest, right? So imagine if you have $50 and you actually just hold it in cash and every month you just put $50 into your piggy bank. It's actually not as great as putting it in the bank account, because the bank account will accumulate the interest and then grow that money substantially, exponentially, as you're trying to live your life, right? And you could also put it in fixed deposit. And the fixed deposit now is about like 2%, but that's not bad at all, like comparing to not having to earn any interest at all. And imagine all these are actually very, very safe way. It's guaranteed return, so you're actually able to do. Yeah, so some of the bank saving account does have it as well. Sorry, Kobe is like walking around while I'm teaching. Anyway, so yeah, some normal bank account as well does the function, but then some bank saving account offers more than the other. So trying to do research and knowing which bank account actually have that leverage is very important as well, because now at the age, since we are so young, we want to focus on to those guaranteed return, because since we're not earning any money, right, you don't want to you try not to lose any money, so you go for those that are safe, low risk, but also a bit low interest, but it's actually safe. So one of the things that I use now is Touch and Go. So I want to say that I'm not really a Touch and Go promoter or anything. I'm just saying it because I find it very beneficial for people who don't want to have too much risk, but you could also get interest from it. So how does it work is that Touch and Go Plus, I don't know how many of you guys heard of it, Touch and Go Plus. So if you know or you don't know, maybe you could put it in the text box. But Touch and Go Plus right now has this promo until 30th of April, and you can get 3.5% out of what you put in your Touch and Go app. So everyone has a Touch and Go app. I mean, most of us have a Touch and Go app. And you can see here that the normal rate is 1.43, but because they have a bonus rate now of 2%, you actually earn 3.5% out of the money here. And it's actually even way more higher than fixed deposit that is stuck there. But then the money you put in Touch and Go, you can actually withdraw anytime. You could use the money to pay for any tolls, or you know, maybe you go to Zap Fund and you want to pay for those Zap Fund food. You could just use that money that you earn to pay for it. So that's the good thing about this Touch and Go Go Plus, because it pays you every single day. As you could see here, it pays you every single day, and it tells you how much you have earned based on how much you put. And the minimum you have to put in is only $10. So $10 is, you know, maybe you just eat a bit less from the Zap Fund store and you have a bit more money that you could put it in here and let it grow exponentially. So it's something that is so small, and you would think that, okay, maybe a day I only earn 20 cents, that's so little. But imagine growing it day by day, right? So like you put $10 in, tomorrow you get 10.20, and then the interest you earn from the 10.20 would be even more. So it actually really just exponentially grow your money more every single day, and you don't even realize it. So it's something that everyone could consider as a part of this guaranteed interest return. Okay, so the third point I want to say is to invest early, but then because now, since everyone is so young, focus into guaranteed return, even though it's low risk, but it's actually low risk, and also but it's guaranteed, so you don't really lose any money as you go. But then maybe when you start earning money and you start getting an income, you can go for higher and riskier investment. But then you have to really learn how to manage your fund properly in order to make sure that you are actually knowing what you do. So don't just throw your money into one basket and just say, like, you know, let it grow, because it doesn't work that way if it's not a guaranteed return. So as you can see here, the fixed deposit is 3%, but it's actually not that high anymore. It used to be in the future, but now maybe around the highest you could get maybe 2% plus. That is actually counted quite high already. And then as you go, you have EPF as well, that I would actually explain later, that you could also put your money in that can let you grow your money. And then the more higher risk, like the KLCI, which is all the investment, the Kuala Lumpur Composite Index. This is where your probably you have seen a lot of people playing the stock investment in AirAsia and stuff like that. Those are all more riskier and need more knowledge in order to excel in that region. Okay, so if you guys have any question, just feel free to leave it down at the text box, in the chat box, and I can reply to you guys. So the financial tip number 3 is the importance of retirement fund. I know you would tell me that, okay, you guys are just 20 years old and retirement sounds so far ahead. It's like, what, 65 or 55? I kind of forget the number. But then it's so far ahead. But then imagine having able to build that retirement fund when you're not even realizing it. So one day, maybe at 65, you already have like $1 million in that bank account and you didn't realize it. So that's the beauty of EPF. So you probably have heard from your parents, EPF, how important is EPF? Because EPF, it takes the money out from your income, and it's tax free. So you don't get tax off those money, and it gets directly into you. So you get the whole. So in terms of like, say if it's $10, you get $10 full. But then maybe if you earn $10, and after tax, you might only get $7. So this is the beauty of EPF. You could actually have all of the money to you, but it's actually locked into this retirement account. And the beauty of EPF is that your employer actually match your contribution. So it's actually mandatory. So for example, if you want 10% of your salary to be put into this EPF, your employer would also have to put 10% from their own money and give it to you. So it's basically free money, if you think of it that way. So that is why it's so important to have an EPF. And even though maybe in the future you might be a freelance, you don't want to work for someone, you could also create an EPF account and put the money in. And recently there's one news that said that only 3% of Malaysians can afford to retire post-pandemic. And that's actually very scary because only 3% are able to live that life carefree when they retire. And we're saying retirement maybe means about like 60 years old. So imagine at your age of 60, you still have to think about money. That would be what we are trying to avoid at this age. That we don't want to be able to still have to think about money when we're at the age 60. Okay? So I just want to show you guys the dividend rate. Because when you put your money into EPF, the government or the financial institute actually help you to invest those money and grow that money for you. That's why it's also going back to compounded interest. Why compounded interest is so important. Because you have your interest that earns more interest. Okay, so as you can see in 2021, which is last year, we actually got 6% out of the money you put in EPF. So if you remember what I said earlier, your maybe saving accounts only earn you maybe 1%. Your FD only earn you 2%. Your Touch and Go Plus right now earns you maybe 3 to 4%. But now your EPF is not always 6%, but you can see in this chart like it goes up and down, but it guarantees you a 2.5% return. And you can see that in the past it has been 5%, 6%. In 2020, even though the pandemic, we were still able to get 5% out of the dividend that you put in the EPF. So that's why it's really, really important to have your EPF created when you start working. So when you start working, it's actually mandatory. But then if you're freelance, no one actually open up an EPF account for you. So you have to put it in the money yourself and let it grow. So imagine right now at the age of 23, you start working and you have this money. And imagine at the time of 60 years old, you will probably get around like maybe 600,000 is what they said is the average money that you would have by the time when you're 60. So 600,000 is actually okay when you start to, retire and you want to enjoy life. Like 600k is actually not that bad. Alright? So I hope you guys know the importance of EPF when you guys start working, right? So then the next tips that I want to share with you guys is that just because you can afford it doesn't mean you have to get it. Okay? It's common sense. But then I tell you what, when you're 20, when you start working, you might have a lot of social pressure, right? Because now you scroll Instagram and then you see people, you know, enjoying, having fun. You want to have it too. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not asking you to not have fun, right? Yeah, so the difference of wanting and needing is really something. So imagine at your age, maybe you don't earn as much, and then you see people having car and having house, and then you're like, oh my god, I also want to have my car, I also want to have a house. But you have to really sit down and think to yourself, like, is that really necessary? Is it what the society wants you to have, or is it what you really want to have, right? Maybe your life, you don't really want a house, maybe you want to travel, right? So then maybe having a house is actually not the great thing. And when maybe if you want to have a house, you could rent it out instead of having to stay yourself. So this is a different thinking and a different perspective that I want you guys to think about when you guys are growing into the 20s and the 25 age, because social pressure is really a thing when you start getting old, and you have to be very clear in your mind to know what you really want. So the tip that I want to share with you guys is the 50-30-20 rule, is that 50% goes into your needs, so like the health, your food, anything that you think is necessary to live. Okay, 30% is for your happiness, because I mean, I'm not asking you to like save all your money, don't do anything, stay at home, you know, don't go out with friends. Like, that's not what I want. I want us to have a balanced life. So I want you guys to have fun, but also have in the back in your mind what you really want in your life, in order to reach that financial freedom that everyone always talks about, right? And then the last 20% is to go into your wealth. So this is the 20% that I talked about earlier, the compounded interest, the investment, all the different things you can do with that remaining money. 20% might sound a lot for some people, but it's really not a lot if you start having that mindset that you change, right? So instead of having to eat out every single day, maybe you calculate your income and what you have left, and that 30% is what you want, you can use to go, you know, party, or like, I don't know, like travel and do all the things that you want, right? And then the 20% would be what you save to grow for your financial freedom in the future. So one example that I want to have here is that when you are buying a car, right, your monthly payment account should not exceed 20% of your pre-tax salary. So if you're earning 3,000, your monthly car installment should not even exceed 600. So you think about it. If I'm earning 3,000, maybe just don't go for like an expensive car. Don't go for like BMW because you want to show someone that you're, you know, doing very well, or like, you know, trying to prove a point and stuff like that. Like, it's okay. It's okay to, you know, just spend less and then save that money for your future. Okay, because now you think that, you know, you want people to know that you're doing well, but it's just, you're just trying to prove something that it doesn't really mean anything if you really think about it. Yeah, so but then again, like, we are young. I'm just saying that in the 20s, just think about that 50-30-20, the want and the need rule, what you want and what you need. Okay, so the financial tip number 5 is to always invest in life or medical insurance plan as soon as you can afford it. So I know a lot of people say that, you know, why do I buy insurance? Like, I'm just basically throwing my money in and I don't really get anything unless I get sick or unless I have any problem. But you don't know when you will need the money. You don't know when you might have an emergency, touch wood lah, like say if you have an accident and or anything that you like healthcare related, you don't know how much you need to have. And nowadays it's more and more expensive. Like, imagine having to get your appendix out. I think it's around like 50k to get your appendix out. So that's the crazy amount of money that you don't really think of unless you're actually in that situation. And what I want to tell you guys is that we need to think ahead. So like in Chinese they call it like 未雨绸缪, I think. So it's basically like you have all this build up before it even hits you. And the important thing about insurance is that the younger you have it, the cheaper it is. So if you have it now, and as compared to you have it when you start having your second or third job, your stable job, it's actually much more expensive. Yeah, 50k, but I mean 50k is if you go to a private lah. Okay, so if you want to go to a government one, you could probably do it as well, but you probably might need to wait. I also don't know. But then again, if you are going to be working in a healthcare field, maybe in a hospital, I think the health insurance in the hospital is a bit different as well. But I just want you to have that thought in your mind, okay? That the more older you get, things get expensive, okay? And then nowadays, the insurance plan actually have an investment tied to it. So what it means when you talk to some insurance agent, I know sometimes when you think about insurance agent, you go like, oh, because some of them, they just reach out to you and then they just try to sell you things. But then always get a couple plans to compare, because every single insurance company has different coverage, okay? And then some insurance plan has investment tied to it. So what it means is that it actually use the money that you pay every month, the premium, to what you pay every month, and it use that money to actually does investment. So like maybe unit trust or stuff like that. And then when you reach the age of 75, because after 75 you're actually not really covered by insurance anymore, because I mean when you're 75, like everyone is quite old, like they don't want to, of course they wouldn't pay after 75, but after 75 the money that you have been paying all these years, they would actually return it back to you. So that is kind of like your insurance that you have as well, that you can keep in mind. So this is also what I want to emphasize, why insurance is so important, okay? It's for your emergency. So the last tips that I want to have as well is financial tip number 6. Don't be afraid of credit card. Some people might love credit card, or some people might hate credit card. So it really depends on the person that you are. Because some people that are afraid, they would be scared of going into debt. Because some people say like, oh, I don't want to spend the money that I have. Like, what if I cannot control, and then I keep swiping, and then like suddenly I have to pay like, you know, 10,000 in debt, you know, stuff like that. But that's the beauty of being in debt, that you borrow the money that you don't have. I know it's very, very scary, but it is also to use it to your advantage, okay? So before you get a credit card, you have to be disciplined. You need to know why are you using that money, okay? And you have to pay off your credit card bill on time. Because if you don't pay off your credit card bill on time, it actually affects your credit score. As I said earlier, pay off your PTPTN loan punctual, pay off your credit card loan punctual, because those are the ones that affect your credit score. So imagine you want to buy a house in the future, and then they see your credit score, oh my god, your credit score is so low, no one want to borrow you money anymore. That's because you don't pay your credit card on time, okay? And then on the bright side, once you know how to master credit card, it has so much benefit, because it gives you points, your cashbacks, and maybe some of the cards even give you buy one free one cinema ticket. So for example, I think it's like Citibank, it gives you you buy one cinema ticket, you get one for free. So these are the little things that, like, you know, in the back of your mind is kind of like that Malaysian mindset, right? Like you want to reap the maximum benefit out of everything. So that's an important thing that you should know as well about credit card. Go for those that are zero annual fee, that would be helpful. Because when you are starting to work, right, that maybe there won't be a lot of credit cards that are available, but there are still a couple ones that are catered to young adults, like maybe I think Citibank, for example. So these are the things that you should take note as well. Use it to your advantage, okay? Don't be afraid to use credit card, because one day you realize that, you know, credit card is actually very helpful if you know how to use it. All right? So I already talked to you guys about that 6. So is the interest very high for credit card? Yeah. So some of the interest, I never go for interest, as in like always pay your credit card on time and don't pay for the interest. Because when you have a credit card, you need to learn to be disciplined, to know how much you have, and because you get to pay off 1 month later, but it doesn't mean that after 1 month later you don't pay it off, because then you have to pay the interest rate. I think it's about 18%. So they would charge you a rate as well. It's the same as PT-PTN loan. PT-PTN loan is 1%, right? So that's very, very low. But that is actually the government initiative. So credit card, how they do it is that they want you to not being able to pay, right? So they can pay you, they can charge you more interest. So make sure you don't go into having to pay interest, because that's not why you should have a credit card, okay? Don't ever pay for interest. Let interest work your way in terms of compounding your interest to earn money, but not, having it works the same way, right? You earn more money from interest, the credit card company earn more money from interest as well. So only do it to your advantage, not to their advantage, okay? So really, really keep in mind on that. So I already shared with you guys 6 tips that it's very, very helpful, and you should always have it in terms of the back of your mind. But what you can start doing right now, because I know all of us are students, right? So you might not have the income to, try to plan and do all the things that I was talking earlier. But in the short term, what you can do is to develop that discipline, right? Because that discipline is the most important thing. Your attitude in life is the most important thing in everything that you do. Like if you want to get fit, you have to go to a gym. You have to be disciplined into going to a gym. If you want to be financial free, you have to really be disciplined into tracking your money and making sure and knowing where your money goes, right? So you would think it's such common sense, but it's also, you need to take the action to do it. Like having the common sense but not having the action, it equals nothing, because it's only in your mind, okay? So track your money, download a money tracker app. One of the app that I currently use is Money Lover. It's free, it's totally free, and you're able to just track your money, what comes in, what goes out. Maybe you have a part-time job as well, so maybe you have an income stream, or maybe, I don't know, like maybe a lot of people wants to be a YouTuber and they really are earning like millions or stuff like that, I don't know. But yeah, even though, what I want to emphasize is that even though you might be earning a lot of money, but you could still equally be broke. So a lot of those basketball players in America, they were earning millions, but they are broke. Why? Because they don't know how to handle their money. So they always think that, oh, I'm earning a lot already, so it's okay, I can spend too. So this is something you have to keep in your mind, to know that earning a lot doesn't mean anything. Knowing how to manage your money, letting your money grow on money is more important, okay? And then this is the short-term plan that I have as a suggestion for you guys. And then long-term plan is to always know your net worth. I know it sounds like such a big word, right? Like net worth, you think of like Steve Jobs, like net worth and stuff like that. But I'm not trying to say, what I'm trying to say is just trying to, this is a part of personal finance that everyone should have, to know how much you truly have with you. So in the future, write down your assets, liability, and the cash flow. And then this is the equation that I personally use, but it's totally up to you whether you want to use it. So this equation means that age is your current age minus 100 years old. So this is assuming that we live to 100 years old, even though actually not many people live to 100 years old, but we put 100 years old. Divide by 100, okay? So it's 0.8%. So this formula teaches that this 0.8% should be invested, okay? So and then as you grow older, this percentage actually goes lower. You know why? Because it's trying to tell you that as you grow older, you take lesser risks, right? Because when you're younger and you have an income, they always say that it's okay to take risks. I mean, now we don't have an income, so it's different. But then when you start working, this is maybe the formula that you can use. So 0.8% of what you have should be invested, right? And I'm not saying that, put it into like, stocks and like crypto and stuff like that. It's not even that. It's just maybe just putting it into FD, a basic saving, high interest bank account. Like it's just little things like that we should keep in mind. And then the 0.2% is your quick cash portion. So those are those emergency fund. So this money, you should be able to take it out and take it in very quickly. So never put that 0.2% into FD, because FD, your money is locked there for maybe 6 months to 12 months and you're not able to touch it. So this 0.2% are what you should put it there, and then maybe one day you really have an emergency, you could take it out from that 0.2%. So it really depends, and this percentage is not fixed. This is just a benchmark of what you can do with your money, right? So in conclusion, what I want to tell you guys is that, like, too many people spend money they haven't earned to buy things that they don't have, they don't want, to impress people that they don't like. Okay, so it's like going back to what I say, a lot of when you're in your 20s, you seem to think, you know, societal pressure, like maybe people are buying house, maybe people are doing this, doing that, and then you're like, I want to do it too, because, you know, you feel like you're left out. But you really tell yourself and ask yourself, what do you really want? Do you really want to do the things that people do, right? Don't do things because you think that people are doing, because it doesn't benefit you. You might not be happy, right? And then you might be doing things that so sometimes you might say that, okay, money is not important to me because I'm not a money-minded person. I just want to live my life as I want to. But in order to live the life that you want to, you still have to pay, right? You still have to pay all the expenses that you have. So I'm not trying to tell you guys to, like, you know, be rich, you know, how to be rich and stuff like that. It's to manage your money and let the money that you have work for you, right? While you're having fun, okay? So this is towards the end of my presentation. Like, I just want to have last advice is that you are in control of your freedom, and it really starts from your finances, okay? Do what you want and not what other want of you. The life is short, everyone's life is short, so have fun. Don't keep thinking that, you know, you want to impress someone, I need to buy something that's to show my worth. Okay, never equate money to your worth, because you are you and it's your life, right? Don't let people tell you other things. Like, don't, sometimes even your parents, not to say like don't listen to your parents, but like sometimes you need to have your stance, right? It's the same thing as you choosing a degree that you want, right? Don't, because people say, oh, business can earn more money, so I will go to study a business. Don't ever think that way, because the life is yours, okay? So this is the end of my presentation. I really hope that you guys can learn something out of this talk, and I'm open for questions if you guys have any questions.